The gentle rhythm of my suburban Tuesday morning, usually punctuated by the click of my keyboard and the distant hum of lawnmowers, was shattered by 3 rapid, insistent rings of the doorbell. Opening it, I was confronted by Madison, the 16-year-old daughter of our notoriously overzealous HOA president, Karen. Madison clutched her phone like a lifeline, her face a mask of teenage entitlement so profound it could curdle milk. Her demand was as audacious as it was abrupt. "I need your Wi-Fi password." Her phone screen displayed a half-uploaded TikTok video, frozen at 12%. "My mom grounded me from mobile data," she announced, not a hint of politeness in her tone, "and I have followers waiting for my content. You have to give me your internet." I blinked, processing the sheer, unadulterated nerve. "Excuse me," I ventured. She repeated her demand, slower this time, as if I were the one failing to grasp a simple concept. "I can see your network from my room, and it's got full bars. I'll only use it for a little bit." "Madison," I began calmly, "I'm not giving you my private Wi-Fi password. That's not how this works." Her face contorted into the familiar indignant scowl I'd seen countless times on her mother during HOA meetings. "Are you serious right now? It's just internet. It's not like it costs you extra." The logic was breathtakingly flawed. "It's my private internet that I pay for," I explained, my patience already wearing thin. "You'll need to work things out with your parents about your phone privileges." Her eyes flashed with a dangerous glint I recognized all too well. "This is ridiculous. I'm calling the cops on you for being unreasonable." She spun on her heel, storming across my lawn, her voice carrying back, "You're going to get arrested for this." I watched her stomp back to the oversized colonial across the street, the veritable throne room from which Karen reigned as our neighborhood's self-appointed queen. Karen, HOA president for 3 long years, treated every community guideline as her personal decree and every neighbor as a subject in her meticulously manicured, beige-toned suburban kingdom. Her daughter, it was clear, had inherited her mother's formidable sense of entitlement, a belief that the world owed her whatever she desired, whenever she desired it. The root of this Wi-Fi crisis, I knew, was Madison's recent grounding after Karen caught her sneaking out. Phone privileges revoked, mobile data blocked. A fate worse than death for a teenager with thousands of TikTok followers. For the past week, I'd seen Madison lurking around the neighborhood, phone held aloft like a dowsing rod, desperately seeking stray Wi-Fi signals. She'd even been spotted loitering in her car outside the community center after hours, attempting to poach their network. The next morning, Madison returned, her determination and her attitude significantly amplified. "Look, I talked to my mom, and she agrees that you should share your Wi-Fi," she declared, arms crossed defiantly. "It's basically a community service. Everyone should have access to the internet." I almost laughed. "Madison, your mother doesn't get to decide how I use my private internet connection." Her voice escalated to that ear-splitting teenage pitch. "But you're being selfish. I have important content to post, and you're just sitting there hoarding bandwidth like some kind of internet miser." "I'm using the internet that I pay for," I replied evenly. "That's how utilities work." Her face reddened. "This is discrimination. You can't just deny a resident their rights." "What rights would those be exactly?" I asked. "The right to internet access. It's like a basic human need now." Before I could dissect this novel interpretation of constitutional law, she was already furiously texting. Within minutes, my mailbox received its first official HOA violation notice of the day, printed on Karen's personal HOA letterhead. It accused me of failing to demonstrate community spirit and refusing reasonable neighbor assistance. threatening a formal hearing if I didn't reconsider my position regarding shared community resources. Karen's speed was impressive, if not her logic. My private Wi-Fi had been magically reclassified as a community resource in under 20 minutes. Letter number 2 arrived that afternoon, escalating the rhetoric to suggest I was creating neighborhood discord and violating the spirit of cooperative living. Karen was clearly consulting her extensive library of HOA enforcement manuals. By evening, letter number 3 landed, warning of potential legal action if I continued to withhold services from fellow residents. Her imagination was truly taking flight. I'd dealt with Karen's creative interpretations of HOA authority before. Her crusades against improperly angled parked cars, mailboxes deemed the wrong shade of black, and grass daring to exceed regulation height by a quarter-inch were legendary. But this Wi-Fi saga was reaching new heights of absurdity. She seemed genuinely convinced that her daughter's TikTok crisis constituted a community emergency, demanding my immediate compliance. The breaking point, the moment this suburban squabble veered into the truly surreal, came the next morning. Madison appeared at my door again, phone already dialed. "Last chance," she announced dramatically. "Give me the password, or I'm calling 911. I stared at her, dumbfounded. "You're going to call emergency services over Wi-Fi." "You're withholding public utilities," she declared, as if reciting from a script. "That's probably illegal." "Madison, Wi-Fi isn't a public utility." "Yes, it is. The internet is like electricity or water now. Everyone needs it, so you have to share it." And then, with a flourish of teenage defiance, she pressed the call button. This was either going to be the shortest 911 call in history or the most spectacularly embarrassing. 911, what's your emergency?" I could hear the dispatcher's calm, professional voice through Madison's phone. "Hi, my neighbor is withholding public utilities from me," Madison began, attempting an official tone. "He won't give me his Wi-Fi password, and I think that's against the law." A pause, pregnant with unspoken disbelief, crackled over the line. "Ma'am, is this a life-threatening emergency?" "Well, no, but..." "Are you currently without power, water, or gas service to your residence?" "No, but I need internet access for my social media, and he's being really unreasonable about it." I could practically hear the dispatcher's professionalism being tested to its absolute limit. "Ma'am, private Wi-Fi networks are not public utilities. I'm going to have an officer speak with you about appropriate use of emergency services." Madison's confident expression faltered. "Wait, what?" Within 15 minutes, a patrol car, lights off, pulled up. Officer Rodriguez, a man whose weary expression suggested he'd drawn the short straw for weird calls that day, stepped out. Madison rushed to him before he even reached my door. "Officer, thank goodness you're here. This man is refusing to share his internet with the community. That has to be illegal, right?" Officer Rodriguez looked from a sputtering Madison to me, clearly trying to process the absurdity of the situation. After I gave him a concise summary of the past few days, Karen's escalating HOA letters, Madison's Wi-Fi demands, and her threats to have me arrested, his expression shifted from confusion to a kind of weary understanding. "So, let me get this straight," Officer Rodriguez said slowly, his gaze fixed on Madison. "You called 911 because your neighbor won't give you his Wi-Fi password." Madison's bravado was rapidly evaporating. "Well, when you put it like that, it sounds bad, but..." "Ma'am, Wi-Fi is private property, not a public utility. Your neighbor has no legal obligation to share his internet connection with you." Just then, Karen Peton's voice, sharp as shattered glass, cut through the air. "Officer, thank goodness you're here." She came striding across the street, her HOA president badge pinned prominently to her blazer, a warrior queen arriving to survey her battlefield. This man has been causing nothing but trouble in our community. Officer Rodriguez turned. And you are Karen Peton, HOA President, she announced, as if this title granted her diplomatic immunity and supreme legal authority. This resident has been flagrantly violating our community obligations and refusing to cooperate with reasonable neighbor requests. Ma'am, what specific community obligations require someone to share their private Wi-Fi? Karen faltered, just for a nanosecond, before regaining her formidable momentum. Well, it's about community spirit. We all need to support each other. Hoarding resources is just selfish. Mrs. Peton, Officer Rodriguez explained, his patience clearly a finite resource. Private internet service is not a community resource. Your neighbor is under no legal obligation to share his Wi-Fi password. Karen's face began its familiar journey towards an impressive shade of crimson. But my daughter needs internet access. This is ridiculous. What kind of neighborhood doesn't support its young people? The kind where people respect private property, I interjected quietly. Karen snapped. Don't you dare talk to me about private property. I've been documenting your violations for days now. Officer, I demand you do something about this. Officer Rodriguez's patience had visibly worn thin. Ma'am, filing false reports is a misdemeanor. Your daughter called 911 claiming someone was withholding public utilities, which is factually incorrect. Madison went pale. Wait, I could get in trouble. Yes, ma'am. Misuse of emergency services is taken very seriously. Karen backpedaled furiously. Now, hold on, officer. My daughter was just confused about the technicalities. Surely, we can work this out reasonably. Mrs. Peton, I'm going to document this incident, Officer Rodriguez stated firmly. If there are any more false reports or harassment over this Wi-Fi issue, there will be charges filed. By now, a small audience of neighbors had gathered, drawn by the drama. Mrs. Chun from next door was discreetly recording the scene with her phone, while the Johnsons across the street watched with undisguised interest from their front window. Karen, noticing the onlookers, made a desperate attempt to regain control. This is all being blown out of proportion. We're just trying to resolve a simple community issue. Ma'am, there is no community issue here, Officer Rodriguez stated with unmistakable clarity. This is a private property matter, and you have no authority to force anyone to share their internet service. Madison, now looking genuinely worried, asked, Am I going to get arrested? Not today, Officer Rodriguez replied, but I am issuing you a formal warning about misuse of emergency services. Any future false reports will result in charges. Karen's face was a canvas of conflicting emotions, rage, disbelief, and the dawning, horrifying realization that her HOA authority meant absolutely nothing to actual law enforcement, and that half the neighborhood was now witnessing her public humiliation. This is outrageous, she sputtered. I'm going to file a complaint with your supervisor. That's your right, ma'am, Officer Rodriguez said calmly. But the facts won't change. Wi-Fi is private property. As Officer Rodriguez finished documenting the incident and drove away, Karen and Madison retreated to their house in a state of disarrayed defeat. But the story, fueled by neighborhood gossip and Mrs. Chen's strategically shared video, was far from over. By evening, the Wi-Fi war was the talk of Willowbrook Heights. The next day, I received a call from Tom Harrison, vice president of our HOA board. Miles, we need to talk about Karen, he said grimly. The board is calling an emergency meeting. 3 days later, the HOA held a special session. Karen arrived looking defiant, but the other board members, armed with Mrs. Chen's video and a chorus of resident complaints about Karen's increasingly erratic behavior, had clearly made up their minds. Tom Harrison presented a motion to remove Karen from her position as president, citing abuse of authority and bringing negative attention to the community. This is a witch hunt. Karen protested, "I was just trying to enforce community standards." Karen, you tried to force a resident to share his private internet by having your daughter